Hello, beautiful souls. It's Rada back with another video at Galactic Goddess Podcast. And in this video, I thought I would share with you what happened with my first film, Hope Cafe. And, a lot of people have been wondering for so many years, like, what happened with that film? They were a part of it. Um, it was my first film that I directed, produced, co-wrote, did music for, everything. And I didn't have funding. I was just using my own money. And every time I'd work for a studio or make money, I would use that um, to invest back into my own project. So I didn't have like somebody backing me or anything like that. And the reason why I'm finally sharing about what happened is because there was so much trauma around this film, not in making it per se, but what happened after I made it and the people that I had involved in it. And I think it's really important that, as a collective, we start sharing our stories and not kind of hiding them in some veiled mystery because other people have been taking our silence and using it to create their own narratives around it. And frankly, a lot of these narratives are lies. So, we are here to bring light to the shadows, to the darkness, and it takes a lot of courage. But, so many years have passed since I've done my first film. And I'm going to start from the very beginning because it's really important. So if you're not interested in hearing a rambling video, then maybe click off of this one because it's a long story. And I'm just going to tell it as a story. I haven't practiced or thought about it. I'm just sharing from my heart right now. So, um, when I was a little girl, I had an aunt that was wild, erratic, and I loved her very, very much. But she was a chaos agent, and you know, um, she was a very wounded individual. You know, as we grow up, we understand that we all get wounded in life, but how we handle those wounds is very different. In the case of the empath, they are the wounded child that learn to feel deeper, that learn to basically read people, read situations because they had to do that out of survival. And they became very sensitive and caring about other people's feelings because empaths learned that they learned about pain and they didn't want others to feel it, right? And then the wounded child that was hurt and decided that they didn't want to heal, that they wanted to take that pain and make everyone else suffer for it and destroy other people who were trying to do good things or beautiful things because they didn't want to see other people succeed because um they couldn't hold that energy of success for themselves because they were jealous, they were angry, they were not willing to do the healing because we've all been hurt. Let's not lie about that. Like everybody has been wounded, okay? So it's like how do we rise from the ashes? How do we become the phoenix rather than being the malevolent evil villain in somebody else's story? So my aunt was not very responsible. She had lots of kids, but she didn't take care of them. She often gave those responsibilities to other people, like my mother, and she would just leave the kids at the house and go party and wasn't really grounded or centered or thinking about the foundational well-being of her children and how important it was to create stability for her kids and in fact decided to have kids with multiple people and create a lot of children who were not getting what they needed in life. And so my mom was the person that was always hardworking. She was always working because she knew she had to take care of her family. she knew that she couldn't rely on my sister. It was known that she just wasn't going to work or do anything, and she was just gonna keep creating babies and partying, um, and so my mom never blamed her sister. She actually loved her sister very, very much, and, my mother was an immigrant along with my aunt and my grandmother, and my mother and my grandmother decided that they were going to work, and they were going to work, work, work their way up in life because that's the only way. And so my mother started like a floral shop, a beautiful floral shop in Menlo Park, California. And as you can see, I love roses, I love flowers, and I ended up working in a floral shop as one of my first jobs as a teen too. But her sister always had these like wild ideas. She decided that she wanted to open a nightclub because she loved to party. And for some reason, my mom always listened to her. And she loved her sister so much, she wanted her to have success. So she let her turn her thriving floral shop into a nightclub, which turned out to be a huge disaster. And my mother was always the one to pay the price for the messes that my aunt made. And this happened over and over again in many, many, many ways. I would always see that my aunt was jealous of my mom. She was always trying to steal her happiness, her stability, ever anything that my mother had that she was growing. She would always come in because she needed a place to stay. She needed something. She needed money. She needed, and she wasn't willing to, you know, go out and get her own needs met by doing the work. She had to rely on somebody else. So my mother was always a person she relied on. And I saw this pattern that really broke my heart as a child. Um, One time my mother was a nanny for a girl that was, disabled, and I lived there with my mom, and um, single woman in Palo Alto, and um, she was taking care of this sweet girl, and then my aunt was again, needing a place to stay, and this is, like, ridiculous because my mom is taking care of a child in a home, and basically my aunt comes in and is like, "I need to stay here," so my mom has to ask the lady, "Can she stay there with us?" So the woman says yes, and my aunt is, like, charming the woman, and I'm sitting there as a little girl watching my aunt go in private room with my mom's boss and tell her, "I could do this job so much better than my sister. I think you should hire me instead." And always getting in people's mind, planting seeds of doubt about my mother, and then trying to promote herself moving forward. And so it was really a tragic um feeling to watch this, and to see the self-destruction also that my aunt did with herself, because in the end she really destroyed herself. She was always chasing something, always trying to take the easy way out and run from her pain instead of ever facing it. And so my mother always picked her up. She would always be taking her off the streets and trying to adopt her children because my aunt basically had her children taken away. So my mother fought really hard to get those kids because she knew that once they go into the system, it's really challenging. And the system is not for families. The system is for exploitation. And unfortunately, the system gave the kids away to foster parents who were not in integrity in any way, shape, or form. I'll just put it that way. So as a little girl, I watched my aunt die, and it broke my heart so much that I literally knew that I was always thinking about my cousins. I was always thinking about my female cousin who I would think of. I would write her letters like every week. I would write her letters because I was always thinking about her, and I even as a little girl, I would try to pitch her, my cousins to my dad's friends, and that were well to do and say, hey, like, I think you should adopt my cousin. And I almost got them to do it before, but then it didn't happen. And it was very unfortunate that basically all the letters I was sending to my cousin went into the garage. So they were never seen by her until much later. I was always trying to stay connected because I didn't have a sister growing up. So I was like, oh, I have a sister. She's just not with me. That's how I thought about her. And that's what I always wanted, was to have a sister. And so soon as she was able to, and soon as we were able to, I think she was like 18 or something like that in her teens, she immediately contacted us, and I was so happy. She came to Ashland, Oregon, where I was living. I was working in my mom's gallery, art gallery that she made and created with her blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, everything in that store she made herself. The kimonos, the jewelry, she designed it and got them made in Bali. She picked the gems. Everything was one of a kind, and it was high quality, in like very high integrity for each of the items. And I wish I had kept some of the things there, because you can't really find that quality anymore. So she comes and she tells us, this sad story about what happened to her life. And we're like, oh no, like, we're going to save you. That's how I felt. Like, I'm not going to let what happened to your mother happen to you. So I don't know, I felt like it was my duty and obligation, and I loved her, and I felt like I finally found my sister. And you know, whatever was mine was hers. That was my thought. So my mom took her to the gallery and was like, you can have anything you want here. Pick whatever you want. It's yours. So she went through the gallery, picked all these expensive, beautiful things. And we were so happy to give to her. But that was the nature of the relationship from that moment. It went like this for, like, unfortunately, like, over a decade. That was the nature of the relationship that was set in stone, is that I was meant to serve her, my mother was meant to give to her, and that we really we took her in because we loved her, right? So when I moved to Hollywood, I was really struggling myself. I had like a studio, and it was really challenging at times, because sometimes you get work, sometimes you don't get work. Um, I was doing modeling and music videos, and when I first got there. And so I was basically taking care of her. Like, I gave her a place to stay. Anything that was mine was hers. She could go through my wardrobe. I had a lot of amazing clothes, and she could use whatever she wanted. I had the car, I was driving her around, and I was also trying to help her make her dreams come true, while I was working really, really hard with no support to make mine as well. So it was a lot of pressure, a lot of heaviness, because I was really trying to lift this woman up, who I was trying to make up for what happened in her childhood, even though it wasn't my fault. Like, what happened to her, and that was part of her experience that she had, and there's no excuse for it. And I wanted to help heal her heart and lift her up. And I had this vision of her really embodying the dream, because she always said she wanted to be a singer. But what was so crazy is, I remember the first week that she stayed in my place, like, after 1 week of going to like auditions and me driving her around, she goes outside and starts crying and going, how come I'm not famous yet? And she was just like seriously crying. And I was like, what? Like, you know how hard people work to make their dreams come true? It's not gonna, like, come to you on a silver platter. That's unless you're born into the family, it's not going to happen. You're an outsider to this industry. Like, you have to work and earn your stripes like everybody else. So I was a bit taken aback. But I invested a lot of time in going to networking events, meeting people. That's how I was building myself, is like really getting to know people. And I basically took her and introduced her to every single person that I knew, big or small. And I came to a place in my career where I was working at the studio, and she was still living at my place rent free, like I was still driving her around. It was still, everything was on my back, right? Like she was a child to me, an adult child that complained a lot. And I just loved her. And I really thought, you know, in Hollywood, you always think like you're going to come up together with somebody because it's so tough. Like you really need that one person to be your shoulder to lean on. And I guess in some ways I was hoping that she would be my shoulder too, but I didn't know that it was not the case. Like basically she was very vampiric and really drained me, financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and also drained my contacts because I came to a place where I was finally offered like something really, really big. I am not kidding, and I don't really know if I want to disclose it, but I was offered something very, very big. I mean, to be a producer on like a film that still goes on to this day. I'll just give you a hint about it being Fast and Furious. And I came to a place where I was literally being asked because the person who is in charge of all of it, his sister was doing a producer as well. And it's known that women producers really get stuff done. I was proving myself in the studios, working behind the scenes. And, this person was tracking my work, seeing what I was doing, seeing how I was excelling, and saw that I was a rising star and wanted to take me, take that willpower that I had and that willingness to work my ass off and get shit done to help with this production because that's what it takes. And sometimes women just know how to get stuff done. So that being said, I made a grave mistake by introducing her to them and introducing her, of course, to everyone that I met, including whom I was dating. And little did I know that she was going behind my back. Like she would never be in cooperation with me. Like I'd say, okay, they want to go have a meeting and talk about something, and we're going to meet here. And then I'd say, would you like to come with me? Because it's always nice to have somebody, like come with you as a woman. It's there, you face a lot of challenges as a woman, working in the industry when you don't really have anybody protecting you. The how do I say it? It can be really dark. It can be really scary, right? As a woman, because you literally don't have anybody there protecting you and you're trying to move up and work hard and prove yourself. And, I would always go to the music studios for her at night after I worked a long day. And I would drive her there and I would stay there with her to protect her because I know, you heard about P. Diddy, so I don't have to explain that any further, but sometimes you need people that are watching your back. Like that's very important to have allies that actually love and care about you. So she would never show up for me when I needed her. But then um she would always when I wasn't in meetings, she'd go behind my back and meet with these people. And I found out like she was telling them like horrible lies, like really planting seeds of doubt, making it seem like I was somebody that I was not. Here I was feeding her, giving her a place to stay, letting her use my clothes, giving her my contacts, taking her to music studios, protecting her. And she was doing the exact opposite. She was like going against me completely, trying to destroy my name, destroy all the hard work that I've been putting in, making up scandalous lies that had no base in reality. And to the point where she had people turning their backs on me that I was really in good standing with. And she even bragged about it. She even bragged about it to my mother. And when I heard about it, I kind of I was having these feelings that she was doing something like that, but my heart sunk. And my reaction in those moments was I was in free fight or flight and freeze because, um, this was replicating something in my childhood where I had an abuser always telling me to shut up. And so I was in a state of trauma and I actually did not address these things with her. I was kind of I loved her more than I loved her more than I loved my need to rise in my career, meaning that like I was just thinking she's hurt, she's going to heal. I always thought that my love could heal her. And as we know about narcissists can't love and they don't want to heal. It's like they're violently opposed to healing. And I was also doing things like I took her to my shaman, um, who is in, actually, she's in one of our books. Her name is Eagle Woman. And I had a really great relationship with Eagle Woman, and she was amazing. Amazing. And so I took her there because I'm like, we need to kind of help her get rid of whatever this is. She's always self-sabotaging, but also sabotaging me, and she's living with me, and I'm feeling really responsible for her. And I really wanted her to heal, like sincerely, so that we could be happy together. Like, why shouldn't we be happy? We're family, right? We have each other's backs. We love each other. I would do anything for her. And of course I wanted her to heal. And so, you know, Eagle Woman tells her, that she's carrying like really big demonic entities. And it's true because when we lived together, she would turn really weird in the house. She would like snarl and like stare at me, and I was like, what is going on? I would just kind of ignore her and go do my thing. I had my own life. I had my dog. I would go on walks and just kind of rise above the animosity, which was so unwarranted. Um, but then she had so much hate in her heart for me that she literally tried to kick me out of my own place. Like she called the management, whom I didn't give her the number, but she was always doing stuff like this. Like she found out who the management was, called the management, tried to spin all these lies about me and get me kicked out of my own place. And they called me, and I basically was like, okay, like she's kicking me out of my own place. And I'm not going to fight her. Like, I'm not going to fight her. If she wants it, she can have it. Even though it was my, social security, my credit, my rent, my deposit, everything, my furniture, I just gave it to her. I even gave her, I left my wardrobe. And I don't know why I felt so obligated to give her everything. But I think it's because I truly, in my mind, I loved her. I would have done anything for her. I gave her the shirt off my back, and she spit on it, right? So there's nothing I could do. I wanted to show her that I loved her because she went through a lot in her life, just like we all have. But I was almost trying to prove to her, look, I love you. Like, I'm not trying to hurt you like everybody else. I want you to do good. I want you to do great. And I'm going to walk away from this. And eventually, of course, that did hit my credit, and it wasn't good, because she couldn't afford to live there by herself. And so that situation happened two times in two different places. And I gave her things that I really cherished and loved. And I can see how foolish that is now. I've grown a lot, obviously, but I would never do that again, trust me. So don't get any ideas. But at that moment in my life, I wasn't, I really loved the clothes that I bought. I loved the jewelry I bought. And I would always let her wear my stuff to like events, but she would always take, like, I had a pearl necklace, and it had all these pearls like hanging from it. It was such a beautiful piece of jewelry, and I love that. And I let her wear it to a film premiere, and she broke it. She wore it, she broke it, and she didn't even tell me. But she was always doing stuff like that, breaking my things, not telling me, not even giving me the courtesy of saying, "Hey, I'm sorry." I actually realized, looking back, that she never actually apologized to me for any of the things that she had done, because she was never sorry. Because she was never sorry. And I would keep watching her do these things to me, and smear campaigns, and she would literally go in my relationships and destroy them, blow them up. Like, she would be like, I need to talk to you, to whomever I was dating, and then meet with them in private or call them and start planting seeds of doubt, start planting um, these feelings that I was not worthy of love, that I was not worthy of a commitment, because she knew that love was very important to me, that you know, having a partner that I really loved was really important, and that having a family was really important. And so you know, these suitors, they would always end up being turned off because she was poisoning poisoning their minds with her prolific lies. And I couldn't even fathom I could not fathom that somebody that I loved so much, somebody that I considered to be my sister, you know, my family, like, that I loved and I wanted to see her win, and I was supporting her dreams, and I was giving her everything I had in my heart and building her up, you know, at times more than I was building myself up, that she would go around and do all these sneaky things. Like, I couldn't process that, and I don't think I had the ability to process that at the time. So I was like, okay, well, let's get you know, let's go to therapy together, because I just had started to go to therapy, and it was actually helping me a lot. And then I brought her in, and then she started to see my therapist. And wow, that was a big mistake, you guys, because you would not believe that she managed to tell the boldest lies, make up horrible things, that my therapist was no longer wanting to work with me. We went in for like a session together, and my therapist was like, you see what you do to people, and like was screaming at me, and I looked at my cousin and I looked at the therapist, and I realized that she had successfully infected my therapist mind, and I could no longer go see her anymore because she had turned her against me. And so this was happening in every area of my life, and I could not believe what was happening. Um, but despite it all, I was still optimistic, and I was like, "You know what?" I started turning to energy healing. I started to throw myself into learning about energy healing, because I knew that, like, my family comes from a lot of trauma and a lot of unresolved stuff and a lot of darkness that I felt that I needed to face, because in each lineage there is a person who is strong enough or brave enough to face it so that they can start to transmute it through their own being, and also attracting these kind of situations so that they can work through them and process them out, because unprocessed stuff in family lineages, that just keeps getting passed down, and it turns into like curses. So I knew without a doubt that I had to do this work, and I fell in love with it. I started to basically learn everything about energy healing that I possibly could. I took every class I could. You know, things were changing in my life, and I was really interested in rising above this darkness, right? Because it was horrifying. And I really believed that people could change and that she could change. And so when I got the opportunity to invest in her once again, I put her through Energy Healing Academy, which was not inexpensive, but it was a big investment. And I thought, you know what, if she can go through this, and if she can start to look at the beliefs and the programming she has, well, then surely she'll be able to see with different eyes, and open her heart and start to be the loving person that I know that she is. Again, that was a really bad investment, because she actually was a really, really good healer. So she opened a practice and she was seeing clients, but then she was basically starting to say, like, she didn't want to help others, that she just wanted to be famous, and that, you know, that's all that mattered to her, her music, her her career. And so she basically, and then she started thinking that all of the clients that she was seeing were copying her. And I'm like, girl, they're not copying you. Not everybody is trying to copy you. Okay. So, you know, and at the same time, this is when Hope Cafe was starting to be born, because um it was kind of a tribute to her mother. Not kind of, it was a tribute to her mother, because the ghost of her mother was very haunting for our whole family. The way that she died, the circumstances, um, the dis-ease that she had, it was really intense for all of us. And this was a way to channel that pain and try to bring back the integrity to her, to honor her. And so, we started to write this movie and co-wrote the screenplay. And it was, the theme of it was every soul deserves a second chance, right? Because we all know that we go through so much in life, and sometimes we make poor choices, sometimes we make good choices. But when you're really, really, really traumatized, you tend to make the bad choices all the time. Like, you can't feel good about making good choices. And if something good comes into your life, you're going to blow it up, and you're going to blow everyone else up around you. So the theme of the movie was about second chances. Every soul deserves a second chance. So I kind of utilize all my contacts, and it was on a shoestring budget. It was not easy to get locations, but I already knew how to get locations because I was really good at talking to people, really good at asking for things and getting them. And because I would tell them about the film, why we're doing it, like there's a reason behind it. And so people they became interested in what I was doing, and they allowed me to use their place, or for much, much less, because you know how expensive it is in LA. And so we even got a lot of actors like Noel G, who's in Fast and Furious, and he's Hector in every movie. He was Hector in this movie too. And you know we got Vin Diesel's best friend Valentino to be co-star in the movie. And we were just asking for a lot of favors. I was asking for a lot of favors from a lot of people, and it takes a lot to pull it together, but we did. I did. And I directed this film. And of course, it wasn't, I have to say, like, it was not the highest quality because we didn't have the big budget, but it was pretty good. Like, I ended up winning best director for the film. And I got picked up from Alice Guy Blanche Awards. I was up for a nomination for best director against some really great female directors, and things were starting to open up. And I knew that everything in life is a stepping stone. Like, you have to work with what you have in front of you. You can't expect to have a huge budget if you haven't proved yourself. You have to work with where you're at, and you have to use all of your resources and your creativity to make things happen. So in the meantime, we were also invested in making the music, since she's actually a really good producer. So I was investing in getting the studios, paying for the artists, paying for the music. I mean, I was just, everything that I made when I was working, it went all into the project. So it was like, it was intense. It took every penny that I had to do this. And it was with the understanding that this was going to be sold for distribution, and that I would get paid back for it because I invested a lot, and that she would get also paid for her music. So that was the plan. And I was all in. Like, I was not like 70% in, 85, 95. I was 100,000% in, because in order to do a project, you can't be wishy-washy about it. You have to commit with everything that you have. Otherwise, it doesn't get done. And one of my gifts is that I'm a completer. I complete projects, even if it takes a little longer because there's hiccups and things along the way. I always hold the vision and I see it to the end. That's my gift. And so it took a while. We even went to Oregon to do some shots. Um, I asked for favors from people that I was saving, to ask, and, the film turned out great for what it was, right? It was a faith-based film. And so, um, here comes distribution time. We have the film, the distributor loves it. The distributor is now asking for the music to go with it. Um, and then my cousin, okay, I have to back up. My cousin was a little bit of a control freak. So she basically said, she would always tell me that she was, the smart one. She's the techie one. She should be holding all the hard drives that I bought because she would keep them safe. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But okay, if that makes you feel good. I trusted her and I let her hold the hard drives, including for the music. So when it comes time to sell the film and we get a yes, they're asking now for everything, right? All the files, the music, the releases and things like that. We meticulously went through and got releases for everything. But now she's holding the cards again. We weren't living together. She's holding the music, and she basically is not willing to give me anything. And then it goes a step further. She tells me that she's now she tells me now that the hard drives have all been destroyed, that she doesn't have them anymore, that they're all destroyed. And here the distributor, I said, give me a little bit of time. I need to gather everything together, and I'm going to give it to you, and then we're going to do our contract. And she basically reneged on everything and, did not give me the music that I paid for, did not give me my intellectual property, the film that I paid for, that I invested in. She stole it, like stole that. And actually, I could sue her for what she's done because, you know, she's now threatening to sue me. And I'm like, girl, you have nothing to stand on. Like, you stole my intellectual property. You destroyed it. You had me losing all that money on this project, time and energy. And also, you screwed over everybody that I worked with that was expecting this film to come out. Like, you've destroyed me and you've destroyed this project. Um, and so she didn't care. She didn't care at all. Um, she would turn around and blame me. And I'm like, you no, she didn't even apologize that she destroyed my hard drives. Not even one apology. I was in such disbelief and grief that I couldn't process the fact that this person that I invested in, this was also for her career because the soundtrack was amazing. Amazing. Every single song, we did it together in the studio. Every single thing that we did, this was going to help her. And we were even showing it to some big producers, big directors, and they were like, wow, this is fire, the music. And she not only withheld it, she destroyed it all. And of course, I think she kept, copies, but she never gave them to me. And she literally just ripped me off for everything. And then I ended up forgiving her anyways because I couldn't fathom the disaster that had happened with this film, and the grief and the sorrow and the feeling of like, I'm the face of it. I'm the one that has to go, and people are going to lose their trust in me because I made promises that this film was going to come out into distribution, and we had distribution. And when the time came for everything to come together, she destroyed everything, destroyed the files for the film. And it was heart-wrenching. Again, like, yeah, it's not going to be the greatest film. It's the first film of many that I was planning on doing. And so what I'm trying to say is that, when you invest in the wrong people, they will blow your life up. They will destroy your reputation. They will try to cause pain and havoc in your life. And in the meantime, while all of this is happening, she took my top tier contacts and decided that she was going to join, you know, the dark side basically, which I hadn't. I was trying to do my own projects because I wasn't planning on, joining the dark side. I wanted to be a independent creative who was in control of my work, and I didn't have to answer to others because I didn't want to have to live that life, right? I didn't want to have to do all those things that is required. Like there are gatekeepers, and she went to the gatekeepers whom I introduced her to. Um, and she basically made deals with them behind my back and cut me out of everything. And then she learned black magic because that's part of the thing. She's now doing black magic on me for over a decade now, and um try to continuously interfere with my life because of the positioning that she got into. You know, when you join the dark side, you get access to a lot of things that us regular folks don't. Like, you can now get into other people's emails, you can get into their phone, you can do all kinds of stuff. You can start to send gang stalkers to people. You can destroy people's lives. And that's exactly what she was doing to me. And I didn't know that she had gone so far that she had decided that I was going to be her sacrifice for her come up, because you always have to give something that you love away. And even though she didn't love anybody, I was the person that was closest to her. So she tried to poison me. Um, and this is not just once, but twice. So, I was living in Hollywood, in West Hollywood, and she comes to my place. She was always up to something, and she comes over, and she had brought over some drugs. And basically these were dirty drugs, and I wasn't really doing them, but she's like, come on, come on. She was always trying to get me to drink, always trying to get me to do something so she could have more control over me. And so I basically partook in this, which was very unfortunate. And it was the last time I ever partook in it because I was dying and I could feel my heart stop beating. It was like really getting slow, and I could feel it. Death was coming over me. So I called 911 and um I got help, right? I got help that I needed right there and then. And as soon as I told her I'm not feeling good, I think something's wrong, she leaves. She doesn't try to help me. She doesn't try to call the ambulance. She basically gave me substances that were meant to kill me is what I've come to realize, because she did this again in Bali. Um, so I really thought that maybe she changed because when she got married, she started to show a different face, that she was hardworking, she was getting stuff done, she was living in the straight life, and um, making progress in her life. And I was so proud of her. And I was like, finally, like she left her evil ways behind, and she's, now we can really be a family. And so this trip to Bali, I was planning on going there, with me, and my mother was going to come with me. And I was coming out of a long breakup, and I really needed to just get my groove back because, I've always wanted a family. And ugh, and she knew that. So I didn't know that she was always trying to destroy that for me.